Hey, you guys, it's Chaffee with Task Force 70. Thanks for joining this week's podcast. Guys, this week I'm super excited because we've got the guy on that I've wanted to have on since before we even started this, but I kept getting schedule pushed because the other people that we wanted to have on had scheduling issues, understandable ones, and a longtime friend and a guy who has a ton of experience in training and teaching in small town law enforcement and in the social media world is Matt Landfair from primary and secondary um, channel. I don't even know what to call it at this point. It's so wide. But the modcasts and the social media presence, the things that Matt doesn't talk about a lot on the public side is he's a full-time cop in a small agency with a lot of training experience in that environment and a lot of cultural awareness about the importance of small town law enforcement culture and how it interacts with other agencies and problems, and most particularly and probably importantly, communities. There's a ton of experience in that. So this week we're going to be talking about that. We're going to be talking about some other interactions or possible future problems or ways to avoid problems with the integration of AI and large language models into law enforcement. Those are kind of the things we're going to be talking about. But as usual, we're not going to kind of talk off a script. We're just going to chat. So for those in the audience who don't know Matt, I'm going to bring him on and let him introduce himself, and we will get crack-a-lackin', guys. If you want to help us out to support the foundation's missions, hit us up at tf70.org/donate. And I promise until the end of the podcast, that's the last time I will shill for our charity. Matt, thanks for coming on, man.
Hey, thanks for having me. It's so nice to be on this side of one of these.
To not be the host. That was
Oh
actually
man,
going
it
to be
is
one of
so
my first
nice.
questions. To have no stress to try to drive the conversation or anything.
No, but that though by itself, yeah, I'm in the hot seat for that part. But the aspect of not having to worry about dead air. What's the next question? What's the direction we're going? Is the
Right.
direction conducive to what the whole topic is? So yeah,
Right.
I just get to sit back and enjoy. This is what I think.
Right. That's awesome. I love that. And I suck at it so bad that I can joke about it. You've done it so long that you can't really, like, flubs are much more magnified when you do them than versus me because you're an actual pro.
Well,
I'm just like a fat cop who is trying to do a podcast. So
no,
I
that's me
I
too.
don't I don't have the I don't have the pressure of experience. So I'm super grateful that you came on, man. I know how busy you are running like 3 full-time jobs plus being a good dad and all that, and like it's super appreciated, and hopefully we'll have some stuff that'll help the guys
Oh yeah,
who don't have many other ways to get good information. Like they can
yeah.
go on Instagram all day and see a dude with lots of arm tattoos shooting fast, and that's, knock yourself out, but that's not really the problem. So
Yeah.
anyway, do you mind introducing yourself to the 1% of the gun tube internet that
Yeah.
doesn't know who you are?
Yeah, absolutely. So my name is Matt Landfair. I've been in law enforcement, and my favorite thing to say during most of my podcasts when I'm doing my own intro is I've been in law enforcement since last century. Though it is only the late 90s, it's not like
Hmm.
anything, though we are at 2025, so it has been a couple days now.
Which is
Um,
unbelievable.
it is. It truly is. Yeah, husband, parent, um, trying to be an active church going guy, trying to be a good example to my kids, all doing that while being a police officer in northern Utah, small agency.
Hmm.
We're a 15-man agency.
Hmm.
I've been, let's see here, I started in corrections, worked for state corrections in a halfway house for a couple years. Working in corrections was a fantastic opportunity to get to know what the clientele was going to be like and how to communicate
Hmm.
with people. Going to the halfway house was taking it to the next level. And then while I was doing that, also maintaining various reserve status with as a patrol officer. So, um, jumped into full-time patrol in '03 and have been pretty much doing it since. And people ask if there's something else that you do instead of this, what would it be? I don't know. And I'm at the point in my career where I could hang it up, but why? I was helping teach alert for the last couple days, and joking with some of the deputies I was working with, where they're like, "Hey, Matt, yeah, you're at the end of your career. What are you going to do?" Well, I'm a young 50. I still got I still got years in me. I don't see myself stopping anytime soon. So I'm going to just keep on going and staying on this path because, well, first off, I know agencies right now are really hurting for good people. I know they're hurting for experience. If I find either of those, I'll let them know. It's not me.
Right.
But this for me, this is a calling. And unfortunately, we're running into a lot of people that are jumping into law enforcement as a job, and it's not so much a calling. And they don't have this desire to serve and this desire to do what's right and desire to be a leader. And whether it's some form of a part of command structure or even informal leadership, which is one of my favorite topics, it's just not there. And that might be a cultural issue. That might be how they were brought up. I don't know what the answer is, but I am excited to talk about it. I'm excited to talk here. I'm excited to talk to coworkers or officers or deputies from other agencies. Working for the small agency, I found that the spheres of influences or spheres of influence around me were all, it's this tiny, tiny bubble. And being in Utah, it's bad enough. A lot of people in Utah do not leave the state of Utah, so they don't know what life is like outside.
Ever.
Yeah, I grew up in a suburb of Chicago, so I have a little bit, I've seen the world a little. But yeah, being around all the officers and all the training is all so, it's the same. There were no new influences coming in. And I started to look. I was looking elsewhere to find, okay, what are some other ways to do things, and what are some other influences I can gather? Went to the internet, found some great people. Pat Rogers was one of them. Pat Rogers, awesome influence. I think he might have been. I think Pat was the first training I took that was not provided by the agency, that was professional training, where I got to see what a real instructor was like, as opposed to an instructor who's checking the box and not having meaningful instruction, not making sure that everyone understands and can apply things. Oh, you met the minimum, you're good to go.
Right.
No, the Pat stuff was, this helped the students grow. And this gave me an idea of how I need to be as a firearms instructor. I went through, let's see here, I think it was in '04, I went through the post firearms instructor curriculum. And so I was a firearms instructor for 4 or 5 years before I got to be introduced to this in person and to see Pat and see his methods and realize, oh, I've been doing this wrong. And the methods I've been using are what I'm being showed locally. I need to be branching out further. So get this great group of going through the internet, reaching out and networking with all these wonderful influences, yourself included. Finding these wonderful people that have been there, they've done that, and they're seeing very similar problems that I'm seeing on smaller scales, on larger scales, but there's so many similarities, and really learning a lot from this expanded network. And man, let me tell you, that network, that it for me, it's a lifesaver. Because I don't know where I don't know where I'd been or where I'd be right now if I didn't have this network. I don't know professionally where I'd be. I don't know.
One of the few positive outcomes of the internet is these types of networks. This one in particular is important for public safety because we reached peak policing in probably the early '90s. Now I'm biased because that's when I came in, but like, every call was managed professionally. The
Yeah.
instruction was okay. It's well, we can talk at some point about why different size departments instruction is good or bad, but
Yeah.
like the internet really enabled
Oh yeah.
starting a network that started with Pat and Chuck and a couple of other people on Light Fighter, like beginning the spin that created the orbit that
Yeah.
became this tribe.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely. Absolutely. And to be able to hear from you and hear from others, other perspectives that I wouldn't normally have access to, which
hmm
greatly influenced the way I did things. Talking to Haggard about
hmm
policing and again the informal leadership concept.
right.
This was absolutely mind blowing. And unfortunately, conversely, I come back to my home agency or I come back to the agencies and I'm experiencing the whole profit in your own land syndrome.
hmm
I go 50 miles in any direction and it's amazing the things I talk about. But
hmm
when I talk about those things here, nah, you're stupid.
right. Well,
Shut up,
you
Landfair.
yeah, you can't be Jesus in Nazareth.
Yeah,
So I've experienced that for a long time where
yeah,
somebody will come to take one of my guys at my agency will travel with me to teach somewhere for another agency, and there's people wanting me to sign their book and take
yeah.
selfies with them and stuff, and this, the guy from my agency,
What the hell's
I'm
this?
just,
Yeah,
yeah, he's just a local guy, right? And I suspect that's a byproduct of parasocial socialization that like is going to take us a couple hundred years to to work our way through as a um, behavioral norm. But yeah, it's super interesting to me,
yeah,
that exact problem.
yeah.
That exact problem. I didn't mean to interrupt your
Oh no, no,
introduction
no,
there.
no. Yeah, but it's true because
hmm
it is funny to have those interactions or go to some conference with some coworkers and some
hmm
people recognize you. And the
Right.
weirdest thing was going to a SHOT Show when I first started primary and secondary, and
hmm
people wanted to take pictures with me. Why the what? That's just dumb.
Right.
Why the
Right.
hell do you want?
Right.
It's just silliness.
Yeah.
But I understand it. I
Yeah.
understand it, and I understand, especially when you get and that was the same way I felt about Pat.
hmm
And this was an event, this interaction, because
Right.
it helped change me for the positive.
hmm Right.
So
Right.
going through the whole network, Facebook turned into this big thing,
hmm
and I was seeking out a similar uh, avenue on Facebook, and it just didn't exist. Looking for
hmm
good sources of information, people I could network with, and I already had that good network from Light Fighter through
hmm
the tribe of Pat,
Right.
but I didn't find there was nothing that was consolidated. And
hmm
I'd go to these different gun groups, and man, the information just was not there.
hmm
And if you really dug, you could find it, but man, it was difficult. So I thought, you know what, I'm just going to start my own thing, and I pulled in my network essentially to
hmm
say, hey, this is what I'm thinking. What do you think? Yeah, let's do it. And it took off, and I called it primary and secondary. Primary being your rifle, secondary being a
hmm
handgun, and it started as a Facebook page back in 2014.
hmm
And the way the way it was cultivated was I had to start a lot of posts to start people talking,
hmm
and I would have a dumb concept that I knew the answer to, and hey, what about this? Blah 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 blah. And fiber optics on carry pistols, yeah. Um, Turned into some really really cool conversations, and people quickly
hmm
figured out, oh, some of these guys, this information, this is priceless. And hearing from this firsthand experience, which a lot of people on Facebook were not used to having this caliber of input and have
hmm
it so accessible. And from there, it just kind of grew.
hmm
And I wound up starting a podcast because of some late night conversations with people like Steve Fisher,
hmm
Chuck Haggard, yeah, Chuck Pressburg, um, where we're talking late at night on a chat, and my buddy Matt said, hey, this is so good, everyone in the world is missing out on these conversations. We need to somehow make this public. And I dropped Matt's name, but his last name, but he asked me not to in a couple things when he retires from his organization.
Yeah.
But awesome guy. So I thought, okay, well, let's do that. Let's do a podcast. And so one day out of the blue, I just started a Google Meet, and people came in, and it was fun, and it was so fun, and just having these conversations like this, and just talking about what's on our mind and what's pressing, and swapping stories. And it wasn't popular. It wasn't popular at all. But for us, it was reinforcement for us and our friendships and our network. And
sometimes initial popularity is an indicator of tomfoolery sometimes.
Yeah. And also, one of the things that we did that turned off some people was our episodes would go for hours and hours. And we might have episodes with Chuck Pressburg falling asleep and snoring on mic because they went so long. Oh yeah, they were so fun. And if I recall correctly, the first month we did one every night, and then kind of slowed it down. And then I think after the first year, I added some structure to it. Yeah. And basically, what it is now is we figure out, okay, what are the topics? What should we be discussing? What needs attention? For me, my favorite topics are the conceptual ones. We're not talking about tangible items. It's fun to talk about tangible items. The revolver episodes, the episodes talking about big bore magnums, that's really, really cool. But the conceptual, the concepts, I love that. And for some of these topics where it is completely outside of my wheelhouse, I just enjoy sitting back and listening, because I get to learn. And I can ask questions real time and find out. Yeah, for me, the revolver journey has been so rewarding, and so it's been fascinating.
Well, they can make guns fun again.
Yes, and they have because I have tons of semi-autos. I've shot semi-autos for my entire professional career. And then jumping into revolvers and going, oh, there's something to this. There's some advantages here, and there's a niche that I really, really appreciate. And then to see it blow up on the large scale just reaffirms, yes, there's some cool stuff to this. But overall, with primary and secondary, the whole goal is to try to fill in the blanks of information that will help the end user. And initially with primary and secondary, there was a heavy emphasis on military law enforcement. Primary and secondary colors were green and blue on purpose, law enforcement and military. I don't remember what year it was, but I expanded it to, the concepts that we're talking about, most of them are applicable to everyone, the responsible gun owner. And so opened that up. As opposed to just being military law enforcement. Okay, now we're going to talk about all these. We're going to talk about home defense. We're going to talk about personal security and concealed carry, because so many of the topics really are so common. So it's been such an awesome journey. I have absolutely loved it. And at times I kind of want to just throw in the towel and be done. But some of the things I need to keep in mind is, how is this positively impacting the community? The minute it stops, I'm going to stop, because that's counterproductive. Additionally, on a selfish level, I've been able to bring so much to my home agencies, whether it's networking with having products, information, or instruction. It's great to bring some of these influences here on my home turf, so everyone else around me can appreciate and enjoy and learn. Yeah. So yeah, absolutely. Awesome. I absolutely love to be able to do this.
I think this format too, especially the current modcast format, is so important, because the means of mass communications of social media has in some ways made archiving more difficult. Archiving of information. Like, if people, as simple as Light Fighter or the Light Fighter forum or the older episodes of the Modcast or older posts on PNS on
Yeah.
primary and secondary. People don't, they're so uh, culturalized to look for an 8-second video on
Yes.
something
Yes.
that it's not that archiving isn't important. It's that you're not going to catch people on accident with archived information. So, like, I did a whole series of Panteo videos.
Yeah.
So, decades ago at this point, like, and I still get asked questions a couple times a week that I answered in those videos because I was getting those questions then.
Yeah.
Now nobody watches DVDs anymore. Like
Yeah.
I get it. I understand the information is archived though, but just getting somebody who needs information, it's almost like they've been intentionally uneducated on how to research something at a surface level, right?
Yeah.
That's why I think this format, especially the format of the modcast, does such a good. Is my background noise coming over?
No, I'm
Okay,
not
good.
picking up anything.
So,
Yeah.
okay, sorry. So I really think that it's important that we don't stop doing what you're doing.
Yeah.
Where, yes, you've answered that question 15 times.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. Like, we need to answer it again.
Yeah.
Because it will either educate somebody who is otherwise not going to make the effort to become educated, and it's still important for them to have it. Just because I think that they're being lazy doesn't change the fact that the community needs them to know that information, right? It doesn't relieve us of the responsibility of continuously reinforcing things. It's why the the fundamentals are the fundamentals for a reason, right?
Yeah.
And our communicative efforts, I think, are just as important,
Yeah.
right? So I'm I didn't mean to go off on a
Oh
side
no.
quest there, but
Well,
I
that
think
reminded me
it's
of things.
yeah,
That
go
reminded
ahead.
me of two things. So basically, modcasts, the reason I called it that is because it was primarily primary and secondary moderators
Hmm.
that were the guests. And I have on Facebook all these chats, and basically these people are grouped into these chats. There's a law enforcement chat, there's
Hmm.
a revolver chat, there are all these topics. Because if we have enough episodes on a specific topic, I want to keep those same people together because we might need to bring them out again. One of the things I remember telling several of the moderators was, it's okay if we rehash the same question multiple times. The
Yeah,
reason being,
exactly.
if we have a Bill Blowers or a Steve Fisher or a Chappie or a you name it, if all of the guys explain the topic or the concept in their own words, that's how many different variations of very similar information. And you know what? They can go in 180 degrees, but we can't
That
predict how
yeah,
the listener's going to perceive it, and
right.
what they're going to grab onto. They might hear Fisher say something and go, "Oh, this is the holy grail right here
Hmm.
for me." And so we
Right.
need to provide all that, and we need to
Hmm.
continue this. That
Hmm.
being said, analyzing the demographics of who our current audience is.
Hmm.
I recently did a pseudo consulting gig for a company that was looking to expand some of uh, their marketing and social media presence. And their specific demographic is potentially some younger officers with probably not that many like admin types that are going to be a
Hmm.
little older. With
Right.
that in mind, that means you probably need to focus a little bit on shorter little clips. The
Hmm.
problem, though, is those shorter clips can't provide all the pertinent information. So you need to provide all of it. You can't
Hmm.
just go in one direction. And so that's one of the conundrums for me as a content creator who wants to reach out to
Hmm.
people. I need to be, and I'm doing a very poor job of doing those short clips. Absolutely, I own that. Um, it's and AI is helpful for that, with that
Yeah.
aspect. But
Yeah.
being able to hit all fronts with that long-term or the long-form content, but then I also have the clips, which you see that on Facebook, you see that on Instagram, you see that on TikTok. Not that anyone should ever use TikTok.
Right.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah.
There's a
Pseudo,
reason
a little bit of sarcasm, but
we're not there.
yeah. I'm not going to go there. There's some security issues, but knowing who our demographic is. So for us, that long-term stuff, man, that's where it's at. And the short stuff, you know what? If I'm flipping through videos, that's okay. But I get my meat and potatoes from the long form, and that's where the value is.
The foundation, that's a super interesting topic. It's something I've thought around, but haven't thought that particular about it as you have. We're aiming this podcast that we're recording right now at the customer. The foundation's customer, we're not charging them for it. That's the reason it's a foundation, but it's cops. It's small agency cops, right? We're trying to give them what they need here. Our shorts exist to talk to the people who support the foundation, to the donors, right? So we're intentionally talking to two different audiences, but we're intermixing some of the important stuff into shorts from here. And we're trying to use that to draw the cops, right? Trying to talk to those two audiences simultaneously is I don't think it's a challenge that can be fixed yet, if that makes sense. I think the medium is still evolving so fast that like I got off Facebook for probably 3 or 4 years. I got really sick and like all that, and the job changed. I became a investigatory lieutenant instead of a patrol and a SWAT lieutenant, so I needed to reduce my profile a little bit. I came back to Facebook 3 or 4 months ago. It's a completely different world.
Yes, it is.
Like, and I've seen you watch it evolve. It is such a different place than it was when I left.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, just the implementation of the short videos.
Right.
Which are everywhere.
Right. Exactly. So, yeah, and I don't know what I think about that, but I know what I think about it psychologically. It's terrible for our population, but we got to communicate with them. So, like maybe thinking about that as the lure in the water and trying to get them to bite,
Yeah.
So anyway, we keep going off on rabbit holes, but I love it. These are important.
Yeah.
So speaking of culturalization, you and I have had discussions several times about law enforcement culture and how different it can be between large, medium, and small agencies, not in its execution, but in why it exists the way that it does, and that the difference between socialization and parasocialization, like a large agency is a parasocialization culture where people feel like they know the chief. In a 4,000 man department, maybe 10 people know the chief. The rest of them feel like they do because of a good communication strategy, which is either properly or improperly used to drive culture. Do you think intentional culture, as opposed to how things evolve on their own versus leadership driving culture in a conscious direction? Do you think I know it's important across all the different categories of agencies. Is with a small agency, is it the smaller the agency, does it become more important, do you think, to intentionally drive culture?
Oh, I think culture in a small agency can be one of the most powerful tools. Just because what culture's doing is that's the underlying, that's the interactions, that's the mindsets, that's the attitudes. And I mentioned informal leadership that Chuck Haggard discusses. Can someone use informal leadership to influence culture? Yeah. But it's way more effective to establish a culture, a leader in a leadership supervisory position to basically they are leading, not managing. They are leading the troops, and we are going in this direction. And this is our mindset. And these are our not just our standard operating procedures. This is the cultural. I don't want to use the same words, but these are the norms and service based. And we need to be cognizant of our own safety and security, as well as other officers as we approach things. We need to be looking out for each other. Without that underlying culture that unifies the entire agency, you have an agency that has officers or deputies all going in their own different directions. And that is the opposite of effectiveness.
Right.
Culture can be a unifying factor that can turn an agency that's okay to an absolute powerhouse. And I don't mean that they're arresting and they're getting everything. No, they're effective.
Right.
And that can just be community involvement or community engagement. And
trust.
Oh man, the trust would be fantastic. Yeah,
right.
if it's done correctly, and if it's being and it has to be displayed from on top or whoever's in charge. And it doesn't necessarily have to be from the chief, but how great would it be if it's from the chief and it trickles down and it's reinforced by everyone underneath, where everyone is basically having not the same but very similar mindsets. And we don't need clones of everyone, but what it does is it unifies that effort. And
I think with that, yeah. And I think without a intentional culture like that, developing the level of ability at the individual officer level that's necessary for discretion, individual discretion, to maximize constitutionality of the enforcement isn't possible. Like, that culture is the bedrock of building or trusting the discretion of the individual officer. And part of the problem there is demographic. I will absolutely fight for chiefs of police who can't keep a guy for more than a year or two just because of demographics. And the demographic problem is a real problem. That's not unique to any one agency. But an intentional culture with a set of standards and a set of, this is how we expect you to deal with the citizens of our community, and doing so correctly will lead to positive outcomes for you as an individual officer, and bad ones will lead to you being sent down the road. Like, because we expect you to treat the community that trusts us in a certain way. That, I think, I suspect, drives the ability for the executive of the jurisdiction and the citizenry to trust the discretion of the individual officer. Without that culture being intentionally developed, I don't think it's possible for the Article 1 and Article 2 powers of that jurisdiction to trust the individual officer's discretion, which leads us to this stage 4 government that Wilson brought in, of trust the institution, check the box, enforcement of law. Like, becomes a requirement the less intentional culture there is in an agency.
Intentional culture.
Yes.
That's And how do we develop that, though? And to me, and when I'm referring to culture, for the most part, I'm talking about a positive culture that's serving the public, that's protecting the officers. The way this is done is contact, that the officers are in contact, and it's reinforced, and the sergeants respond with the officers and reinforce that. So we get a new guy right out of the academy. How do we get them into our culture? We interact with them. We show them this is how things are done. And there's mentorship. Mentorship is huge. And open up those channels that they understand, you know what? Just call if you need something. But
Mm-hmm.
on incidents, I will be there with you.
Mm-hmm.
And we are there as a team.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it's unit cohesion. It's amazing. And it's so
Mm-hmm.
it's so great to see a group of officers come together that way, responding to an incident, and they fall into place, and not fall into place negatively. No, they go to the roles where they need to go
Mm-hmm.
to, as opposed to going to the person in charge going, hey, where do you need me? Or what do you need me to do? No, you just do it.
Oh, that drives me
And you
crazy.
flow. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that drives me crazy. The 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 piece missing with modern, what is called leadership training, which isn't.
Yeah.
Most modern leadership training that starts at DOJ's s- training systems that they push down, is just managerial
Hmm.
education, which is technical
And that's not
in
leadership by any means.
no. So there's a fundamental, it's not even a misunderstanding, it's a lack of understanding on the part of especially small department unit leaders, sergeants, corporals, lieutenants. There is a difference between leadership and management. There's a difference in leadership and supervision. Leadership is a face-to-face function.
It is.
uh, that's why people like Pat could teach so effectively, is Pat wasn't teaching, Pat was leading.
Yeah.
And that is always a face-to-face function. It's why the over reliance on V academies and remote
Email.
video learning and emails, that is not leadership.
Yeah.
And that is discombobulating a culture every time it's done.
Yeah.
So if now there are things that can be taught or managed remotely via email or via academy, if it's training, whatever, those are technical, bureaucratic necessities of being a law enforcement officer in the modern age, right? Those things should be used that way because that frees resource time
Yeah.
for things that require face-to-face training. And all of that has to be incorporated into a intentional culture. That has to be compensated for when the culture is thought through, a set of priorities. Like a chief of police, I'm not thinking of any particular one, but let's overly bureaucratic administration will spend a month of meetings to determine what our mission statement is.
Yeah.
The mission statement doesn't drive the department.
Mm-mm.
What the sergeant has trained you to do when he's not there in certain call instances is what the culture is.
Yeah.
Like when you show up to a domestic, I expect you to, as you're pulling up, park in a safe place. I expect you to make sure as soon as you can see them, you're covering your partner. What function or what action needs to take place by priority next based on
Yeah.
what I'm seeing, and going and doing it instead of walking up to the officer who's talking to the victim and say, where do you need me?
Yeah. Yeah.
That action is the where do you need me is an indicator of a cultural inadequacy,
Yeah. Well, I
right?
think,
I think.
yeah. An aspect also, I think, of positive culture is some level of inspiration, because you don't
Hmm.
get inspiration from managers.
Right.
They're not inspirational. A leader's
Hmm.
inspirational. And
Right.
so it's all, yeah.
It's such a complex societal interaction.
Yeah.
The culture of a small department is far more complicated than the culture of a big department,
Yeah.
because any big department is just a conglomerate of a bunch of small cultures.
Yes. A shift, a crew. Yeah.
Right, exactly. A patrol team is a culture,
Yeah.
and it might as well be a different police department.
Yeah.
Right? I worked at a sheriff's office with thousands of people, and our patrol team of 8 guys was our own police department, right? Culturally,
Yeah.
and the sergeant expected certain things and taught us those things face to face. Like, this is how I want this done. I know you have your 206 patrol skills that you have, and you're like knocked out, but this is how we expect this to be done. And then holding us accountable and like all the good leadership stuff that is unfortunately kind of dying on the vine a little bit,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
So I didn't mean to keep interrupting you there, Matt.
This is a
Did you have?
discussion.
Yeah, absolutely. So we can sit around and bitch. Let's imagine that I'm a night shift officer who sits in the gas station parking lot at 3 o'clock in the morning with no traffic,
Yeah.
with 4,000 residents in my community. I know that I should be doing some sort of training at this time, right? But
Yeah.
could I also be thinking about conscious, intentional culture stuff that I can influence, right?
Yeah.
Can so do you mind just kind of both of us, I suspect, have worked in places where we knew the culture was broken,
Hmm.
right? What are some of the things or ways that I can be giving some serious thought to? First of all, do you think that an individual officer, no matter how low of rank, can influence culture? And in what ways can he start to do that?
Yeah. So lowest guy on the totem pole,
Hmm.
absolutely that influence. But
Right.
do they have the same influence as a shift leader, an OIC, a corporal, a sergeant, a everything? Probably not. But
Right.
well, first off, you got to start somewhere.
Right.
But let's talk about that guy who's working the grave and just park somewhere.
Hmm.
I remember talking to some coworkers about there. As a matter of fact, I can think of one where he would do everything in his power to not have to do anything. And when he wasn't on a call, he would practically hide. And I
Hmm.
was trying to encourage him. You know what would be really good for you right now is if you just park somewhere where there's traffic so people see you, just your mere presence is going to positively affect things.
Hmm.
And if you want to take it the next step further, turn on your radar. Seems like a little tiny dumb thing.
Hmm.
And then you know what? A week from then, pull over a car. You see someone going, whatever your standard is, pull over a car and just get these baby steps. So I was teaching alert the last couple of days. One of the things we were discussing was the approach to the target building or the location.
Hmm.
And one of the things I urged the deputies and the officers was get to know your area. Wherever you work, know what your high profile areas are, know the avenues of
Hmm.
approach, know what the hours where they're going to be most busy. So I know with our elementary schools, if you need to get there in an emergency type response
Hmm.
during pickup or drop off, you need to know other avenues versus the main ones, and you need to know where all the parents are going to be parked. For banks, you probably should know what all sides of the bank look like. And so if you get called over there, you don't really have to think, and you already know what direction you should be approaching
Hmm.
from, as opposed to, oh, I got a call at a Wells Fargo. This is the first time I've ever responded there. Oh, I totally flubbed this. I could have been killed because of this approach. No, take the opportunity right now. Go
Hmm.
map out those places. I even so back in the paper days where we had paper maps and things. I would go on the basically like a Google map and have an overview of certain locations. And basically, if we had an incident there, I already had this already available, and I already knew how to get to these locations. Little tiny things that help me
Hmm.
do my job better, and then I bring that up at break. Hey, you know what I
Hmm.
did? Have you ever responded over here? What did you find? Or you know what? I went to this place and this is man, the traffic was horrible going in this direction. I wound up going the other way, and just to start that dialogue, because if the
Hmm.
dialogue's not there, it's got to come from somewhere. Let it be you. You start it.
Right.
You start
Right.
it. And
Exactly.
the more this happens, or you know what, after a high profile incident, meet up with everyone, encourage everyone to meet up. Let's go get a drink. Let's talk about what just happened.
Mm-hmm.
How can we improve? And that can be applied to practically everything.
Mm-hmm.
And just to start that conversation, because I can think of agencies where that's not occurring. I can think of calls I've been to. Why didn't we talk about this after the fact? But if you're not seeing it around you, why not have it be you? You can start these conversations. And really that culture is all about the interaction, and it's reinforcement of good habits, of good mindsets. And the more it's done, the easier it's to share. It almost reminds me of the current climate with right now it's interesting with religion.
Mm-hmm.
Things are becoming more popular to be a little bit more open about your religion, where a month ago I wouldn't be posting. I normally wouldn't be posting anything about Christianity. I have been recently. And turning that, and it almost feels like that might be turning back into a norm. Same with this.
I hope so.
Turn this into the norm. Talk about this. Talk about what you're seeing. And who knows? The partner that went with you might have seen something completely different, and you might be completely wrong. This might be an opportunity for you to grow and to learn something that helps you improve and become better. And that's developing that culture. And man, are you serving the public better if you know your areas, if you're more proactive, if you're visible, if you're more effective on your calls? Absolutely.
Right. Well, and to touch or circle back slightly, something that you said kind of tied in my broken brain. The younger the officer, or the age and experience of the officer, is not an indicator of leadership ability.
No,
right?
not
So
at all.
sometimes who is the most effective national cultural leader who was killed because of it? How old was he when he started exercising that influence, right? He was 17 years old when Mr. Kirk started
I didn't know that.
doing the public stuff.
Yeah.
He started speaking publicly, culturally, at 17 years old. People our age, did we take him seriously then? No.
He was not even on my radar up until I started seeing short videos of him.
Right. Even then, I mean, he died at 31 last week, right? A 31-year-old cop in a small agency who's been together for a while will still be seen as the new guy, right? Could he still exercise influence as long as he has thought things through and he's not unintentionally acting, right? Intentionalization is the key to being an effective leader, right? Just winging it leads to terrible leadership because that allows a gap in the wall for emotion to interact with your leadership, right? I'm probably not making much sense, but if we exercise influence intentionally, that is leadership. That's really what leadership is the exercise of influence in an intentional way on our side of the aisle, on the law enforcement constitutional execution of authority side, should be always intentional, and that is what creates the culture. If you sit down and try to make a simple 31-step process to develop a good small department culture, like, you're going to write that ship forever. You're not going to do anything. But figure out where you want to go. What's my intention here? What am I trying to do? And then what can I do in the moment in a face-to-face interaction to further that purpose, right? And asking older officers or more experienced officers to listen to younger officers is never going to work. Like, or the chief says, I want you to listen to Officer Smuckers because, he's young and he understands and he watches the internet. Like, that's not how that works, right? It's the performance that matters. So
Yeah.
if you're a young officer on a small department, especially, focus first on squaring away your performance.
Yeah.
And then people will listen to
Yeah.
you if you have something intentional to say.
And
So,
one of the things you said also kind of uh, resonated with me, talking about uh, kind of shooting from the hip and how that really
mhm,
doesn't work well. One of the
right.
things that I found has worked is, if I'm going to provide some input, I'm also going to explain why this is what I'm saying,
Mhm,
as opposed to, well, you know what you should do? You should do this and leave it at
mhm,
that. Well, that's not helpful. And this is
right.
one of the things I would say on primary and secondary when we're talking about whatever topic. I don't really care about the what. I want to know the why,
Mhm,
because Google can tell me what. Only you
right.
can tell me why.
Right.
And that why can be really, really powerful. And one of the things, especially for anyone listening who they feel like they are a pariah, which that is majority, if not my entire career, being the pariah,
Mhm.
it's
Yeah.
still possible to be that positive influence
Mhm,
and still provide that informal leadership.
mhm. Yeah.
And it's positive and it's
Right.
good and it's helpful and it
Right.
improves everyone. It's raising the bar for everyone.
Mhm. Well, and we also have a pre-stage psychological trap that is exacerbated by social media where everything is a gotcha video or
It is.
um you're a dumbass, right?
Yeah.
With no explanation of why they are wrong or why you are right.
Yeah.
And why I am right is how influence actually occurs. The why I am right is what generates the influence, not the what you should do.
Yeah.
I'm just reinforcing what you said about
Yeah.
how much more important the why is than the what.
Yeah.
The why is critically important, and it's being lost not through any grand evil scheme. It's the exploitation of a natural human psychological weakness of parasocial interaction, right? Which is it's fun to watch people get pwned, right? It's
Yeah.
it's
Just give
it's
me the
it's
answer and I'm done.
entertaining,
Yeah.
right?
Oh,
I'm
and
just giving you the answer.
those cop videos, I hate them.
Oh
The
yeah, they're
30 seconds
terrible.
and it's not
Yeah.
giving any information and all
Hmm.
the comments are
Right.
reinforcing whatever position. Man,
Hmm.
what a waste of time.
Well, and it encourages the already terrible fundamental misunderstanding of what the police are
Yeah.
and why we exist, which is partially intentional, started with
Oh,
the
completely.
institutionalization of government authority. Like I'm going to have Dr. Regan on next week from Hillsdale College, who is a absolutely phenomenal academic and a very, very smart dude. He developed the Hillsdale College's law enforcement constitutional course, which is I've been participating in for a long time. They're one of the partners of the foundation. One of the things we're going to talk about pretty seriously is the stage 4 government that we're trying to unconfuculate right now.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
uh, the the creation of the fourth branch of government unconstitutionally has led us to law enforcement performing the way that we do now through a lack of intentional culture and intentional focus and which is exacerbated by these 30-second videos of cops being
Yeah.
an asshole. Well, why is the cop being an asshole?
Yeah.
Are some cops not good at it? Yeah, statistically, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And the demographic problem that we're going to talk about next, as it interrelates with artificial intelligence, is a amplifier for that, but it's not the core problem. And not every cop is an asshole.
No.
Like
No.
like sometimes you're seeing us being aggressive because we need to be.
Yep.
and
Yep.
and they're not
Context.
helping.
Yeah.
Context is everything in a law enforcement
Yeah.
context. So
And one of the things that you just brought up reminded me of another thing that I wanted to just briefly go over, and
hmm
it's constitutional awareness and being and not violating people's rights. That can
hmm
be something that's cultural.
hmm
And the way it starts is to have that conversation. to
Right.
discuss these are what the rights are, and this is why
Mm-hmm.
they exist. This is what they cover, and this
Mm-hmm.
is the foundation. These are the foundations. Then then we can look at some case law, but we need to understand these are what the basic rights are. And the
Mm-hmm.
better versed we are with that, the better we
Mm-hmm.
are as cops, and the less likely it
Right.
is that we're going to violate people's rights. And that is something absolutely that can be cultural.
Mm-hmm.
As a matter of fact,
Absolutely.
if people are listening, I encourage you, if your agency hasn't had that conversation among the troops about what rights mean, what do
Mm-hmm.
rights mean to you, that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Do it.
And
Do it now.
yeah, and the fourth branch of government, the unconstitutionally directed Wilsonian form of government that we have now, has intentionally removed the Constitution from the law enforcement authority through the application of case law in all training,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
And that's intentional.
It's all about
So
case law, not the Constitution.
yes, and
Yeah,
case law is a moving target,
it is.
and that's why the system is developed the way that it is to be a moving target, so that within the bounds of the Constitution, we can adjust as a society, which is healthy, and it was intentionally done by Madison in particular. But the fourth branch of government truly believes, and if anybody is interested, you can see Article 1 power authorities, congressmen and senators saying this in this way, that your rights don't come from God, they are granted to you by the government. Well, that is the antithesis
Yeah.
of what the Constitution actually is. So that is the purpose for intentionally de-emphasizing constitutional education of law enforcement officers. Law enforcement authority is codified in the preamble of the freaking Constitution. The the purpose is to ensure domestic tranquility. That is that is what our job is. And understanding what those words mean and what that does. Cops don't have rights. Cops have responsibilities.
Yeah.
We are responsible for upholding the rights of our community, including the suspect. Like, that is our job. It
Oh,
is not,
absolutely.
we're not trying to figure out the internet one easy trick to violate a guy's rights
Yeah.
legally.
Yeah.
Like, and unfortunately, it's being trained a lot that I'm seeing within the last probably 8 to 10 years. It's being couched that way in some jurisdictions, that this is how you get around the Fourth Amendment. You don't get around the Fourth Amendment. The Fourth Amendment is what it is. We have a responsibility to ensure domestic tranquility, which allows us or orders us to violate that person's rights given this set of particular circumstances, right? That kind of fundamental understanding is intentionally left out of a large amount of law enforcement training. And it's the reason the foundation exists the way it does, is that problem. So I'm super happy you brought that up, because that's
Well, yeah.
excuse me. Go
Well,
ahead.
a great way to start that conversation, whether it's
Hmm.
one-on-one or you have your crew with you, is,
Hmm.
well, you realize the amendments, they're not restricting me, they're restricting government, right?
Right.
Let's read it. And it's actually stopping the government from doing stuff.
Hmm.
It's not saying I shouldn't be able to do something. And
Right.
see where that conversation goes,
Right.
because because it's amazing how many people haven't realized that.
Hmm.
Oh,
Yeah.
well, no, these are my rights. Well, yes, they are your rights, but those specific ones, as they're outlined, it's talking to the government. It's not talking to you.
Hmm. Yeah.
It's
The
saying you're not going to
Constitution
do
isn't.
this.
Yeah. The Constitution isn't aimed at the citizen.
No.
It's not aimed at the people. It's a statement of the people aimed at the government.
Yes.
And it's such a fallible understanding that I just saw yesterday, that we're violating people's First Amendment rights by getting them fired from their job. That sentence is a fundamental expression of a deep misunderstanding at its root at what the Constitution is.
Yeah.
The Constitution is aimed by the people at the government. It is not aimed by the government at the people. So anyway, you and I especially were so aligned on this that we could probably talk for 10
Yeah.
hours just that
And
subject.
let me tell you, when I
But
had that
that's a
realization, it was
mhm.
exciting to me. When I
Yeah,
realized, well, wait a minute,
absolutely.
that's not pointing at me. And
Right.
it was, yeah, it was a awesome moment for me when that happened.
A- As an American, absolutely. As a law enforcement officer, I was very lucky. You and I both came in educated by a generation that understood that implicitly. And they understood it so fully that they didn't think it was necessary to teach
Yeah,
it explicitly.
this is common sense. Why do I
It
need to
was
talk
common
about it?
sense.
Yeah.
You and I both went through very long police academies, very legit long-term FTO programs. The generation that trained us understood that deeply. And you and I in our generation were not explicitly taught that because it was assumed that
Completely.
we understood. Pat and I actually had several conversations about this when I had always tried to lead him into conversations where he
Mm.
could make the witticisms that he enjoyed so much. The, assuming is making an ass out of you and me kind of thing. He and I talked about that a lot, about why generations of leadership always degrade
Hmm.
until they have to be refreshed. So, and it's the same in families, it's the same in cultures. It's the reason that cultures live for 250 years ish,
Hmm.
or 120 or 250 years, and then they collapse and have to be rebuilt. We have experienced that in the last probably 35 years in the law enforcement world, where we got so comfortable that we assumed a background layer of knowledge
Yeah.
that doesn't exist naturally. Like, you're not born. Our generation wasn't born preloaded with the programming of the previous generation. So anyway, I'm super appreciative of you bringing that up. Like,
Yeah.
we really need
Not enough
to.
people talk about it. It's
Right,
a yeah.
because a lot of them don't know it exists, or
Yeah.
they've never thought about it
They don't care.
usually,
Doesn't
or they
affect
don't
them.
care.
It's not right
Right.
here. Doesn't matter.
Right. So I did a survey for the preparation. So it's taken us about, you know this, but the public doesn't. It's taken us about 2 years to build the foundation infrastructure necessary to launch it publicly 6 months ago. So we wanted to, we demand of ourselves that this is a legitimate, the legitimate purpose of this is to serve small town Americans,
Yeah.
right? Because those cops get nothing. Those guys are making small amount of money. They get no training budget. They're sent to the state academy, given a patrol car, almost literally, and pushed out into the world,
Yep.
right? And it's unacceptable for this, like 70% of the departments serve populations of under 10,000 people. Those people are just as American as the residents of the Los Angeles
Yeah.
city, right? The cops there deserve, or the citizens of that jurisdiction deserve just as much police service as Jacksonville, Florida, one of the
Yep.
best sheriff's offices in the country, right? Best trained, long term cultural strength, great training. Excuse me. And there's a bunch of big departments like that. One of the things I've been studying is why, in the last 10 years, the level of quality of training that small agencies, Task Force 70 type agencies get is going down precipitously, while at the same time, large agencies, the quality of the training that large agencies get is going up, not down.
Hmm.
And that's partially a funding resourcing solution, but it's mostly a cultural solution
Yeah.
within the training divisions of those departments, right? So that's always an individual solution. The the problem the problems faced by the citizens of those small jurisdictions are becoming acute, because those officers are not, they're not as well trained as the officers 5 years ago,
Hmm.
much less the officers of our generation. So anyhow, I didn't mean to make a giant digression there, but
Needs to be said.
I really appreciate that. So Matt, that was a great lead in into the other topic I really wanted to get your take on today. It's something that I see. It's not just on the horizon, it's already a challenge for
It's
especially
here.
small agencies. It's the integration of artificial intelligence, large language models into law enforcement actions. Not just research, but law enforcement action is a challenge. This has been here for a long time in the simplified form of traffic signal tickets, right? Where somebody runs a red light, takes a picture of their license plate, the system auto runs their plate, sends them a ticket, right? That's a form of what we think of today as AI, which isn't actually AI, but that's a whole other topic, right? It's a buzzword. But the integration of large language models and large language model interface combined with the CPU power to do it rapidly it's already driving a lot uh, of fundamental operational activity in law enforcement agencies, even when they don't know it's happening. So, a smaller agency, I know my particular agency, but I'm starting to look into the smaller agencies than us around. Like I live in a jurisdiction with 5 police officers, so I kind of live in the quintessential TF70 agency, right?
Yeah.
Um, their current operational systems integrate 6 AIs at some level, right? Whether it's report writing, traffic enforcement, the courts, whatever it is, right? We can we can use this power for good or use it for evil, right? In any enforcement action is a constitutional act, right?
Yeah.
Under the Article 2 power. So, do you mind giving us your thoughts on
Yeah.
not only I do want to hear what you view as the positives of those capabilities for enforcement action in particular, right? I'd also like to hear your thoughts about some of the dangers you see working in the 5 to 25 threat model, right? What do you see at the 5 yard problem? Like what's immediate and
Yeah.
what's kind of midterm challenges that
Yeah.
we at the small agency level need to be looking at and trying to weave our way around so that we don't end up with 4-legged dog robot law enforcement officers with
Oh, any
belt-fed
day now.
machine guns. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. And that's
So
when
anyway,
Skynet. Yeah, we'll be among Skynet.
right.
Um. So, who was it? Axon body camera
Mm-hmm.
tasers have an additional system that you can purchase
Mm-hmm.
that will write your report based on what it
Mm-hmm.
sees in the body cam.
And a bunch of people are using it.
Yeah. So, how great is that? It's going to do all your work. Is it seeing everything?
Right.
Is it able to think and determine, should I be taking action based on this?
Mm-hmm.
One of the things I learned from my own interaction with AI, and AI can be amazing,
Mm-hmm.
fantastic, but it also is biased.
Mm-hmm.
It can be biased. Um, there are so many things that you can adjust within an AI depending on. So I use Chat GPT. I've had long conversations with Chat for my first couple conversations were talking about topics I'm well versed on, and I want to hear what it has to say. Basically, I'm checking its work.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things I noticed with it is it had, I wouldn't say attitudes, but it would be unusually positive constantly. And I would
Mm-hmm.
have to tell it, hey, when we're talking, I need you not to be this unrealistic positive thing. Tone it down tremendously. I just need to hear the facts.
Mm-hmm.
That's great, Matt. Yeah, I'll make sure I do that. And
You just
and I
did it
had
in your answer.
yeah.
That's
Um,
great, Matt.
But that's what it is. It's this conversational tool, which humans nowadays, actually humans, they're always looking for a better way to do things. And if there's a way that you can spend less time on a mundane task and get the same results, or at least perceive same results, we're going to do that. That's what AI is doing for us. The problem is the work needs to be checked. We can't blindly just rely on AI. Now, there are aspects. So you brought up like the red light tickets, cameras. Same with tracking software, tracking in UAVs, drones, all that kind of stuff. Yeah, there's some amazing things, but we always need a human, and we always need to check work, because if you're well versed in a topic, ask one of these AI a question about it and see how correct it is. And if everything's on the straight and narrow and exactly what you're thinking, keep on asking questions. And because eventually, the more interaction you have, you'll start seeing maybe some biases, or you're going to see that the sources it's providing is not necessarily accurate information, but it's popular information. That's not something that I want to have integrated into my law enforcement activities. And this is where we, as the operators of it, need to hold on to those reins. And it's still pretty much in the infancy. It's still so young, but the strides that have been taken are absolutely amazing. But and so I work close to a university, and it's interesting talking to people that work at the university about how people are trying to use AI constantly on all these things to include actual like work documents. And yeah, we have means of determining whether something's generated by AI. Yeah, absolutely. But
which is also an AI.
Which is an AI, yeah. But it's in use. It's here. We need to know. We need to know how to tame it. We need to know how to recognize it. Here in Utah, there was a statute or a law that was passed, basically saying, as long as you have it addressed in your policy, and as long as you check off the work, and as long as in your report it says that this was generated by AI, you can use AI for report writing. Those are pretty reasonable. Yeah, check the work, acknowledge that it's there. Yeah, make sure policy's in there. But as the older generation, that's not really, AI isn't that much of my life at the moment.
Yeah.
As the younger generation jump into this both feet, absolutely. And can it be something that's absolutely amazing if it's used correctly? Yes. But again, I can't emphasize that we need to hold on to those reins, and we need that human involvement, or else we're going to wind up with something that's not what we want. And it's also not what we intended.
Right. And what the public won't stand for.
Well, hopefully.
Yeah. We can hope. Yeah. My big concern, there's a lot of very positive outcomes from that. Now, can I write a probable cause statement faster than I can explain the circumstances of the case to Grok? Yes. That's a function of experience. I can write a probable cause statement for an arrest warrant faster than I can give the basic facts of the case to Grok. That's not always going to be the case. Right. The concern is my concern is that this will enable us, and more importantly, our executive leadership, to be educated, because our executive leadership education system is controlled by the Department of Justice. All of the schools that they go to in order to get credentialed to be a chief of police are all controlled at a centralized authority, which does not understand the individual circumstances of the city or county in which they're working. The officers have a fundamental understanding of the people in front of them, and the smaller the jurisdiction, the more likely that is. When I arrest, I almost said a name, but a guy here in our local jurisdiction who I've arrested 20 times for different things, right? There's 100 times I haven't arrested him, even though the elements of the crime existed, because it wasn't in the interests of the community for
Wow,
whatever reason for me to
that's a thing.
arrest that guy.
That is a
That's a
thing.
real thing. Discretion is being removed intentionally on this hand by the Article 4 powers, the un the blob, the unelected form of government that has created itself since President Wilson. Kind of started under Teddy Roosevelt, but if you say anything negative about Teddy Roosevelt, you're going to get strung up. So let's start it at Wilson, right? So it's being enabled and exacerbated by the encouragement in some areas of walking right up to the line of law enforcement decision by large language models. And it is capable of doing that just and I'm not bad talking Axon, but let's say that an agency, which a lot of agencies are purchasing this program right now, where it writes the report based on the body cam footage. If I let it do that real quick and I read it while I'm in my car, I may influence myself in order to affect an arrest after
Yeah.
I read the notes real quick and I'm like, well, shit, all the elements are there. He should probably go to jail. I didn't think about it that way. That is a terrible precedent because how quick will that become a crutch for an arrest decision?
And also, how quick
I,
will it throw out the arrest? If someone
right,
did some fine tuning or fine combing and go, wait a minute,
right.
this isn't
Well,
right.
yeah,
You just
exactly.
violated their rights.
Right, exactly. And how quickly will that become a crutch for an officer to make the arrest decision based on how the AI generated report looks before he leaves the scene? That is not the constitutional standard for
Well,
arresting somebody.
and you know what scares me?
It's,
The way you just described that is it reminds me of a muscle.
mm-hmm.
And the more people rely on that versus their own decision making,
That's
we might as well put those four-legged robots
mm-hmm.
out there because
Right. That's kind of where I was going with that.
yeah,
You picking up what I'm laying down, right?
yeah,
If you stop bending over to pick stuff up, pretty soon you're not able to bend over.
yeah,
So it, that is the true constitutional danger I see in over integration of artificial intelligence and in the large language uh, model arm or mechanism of AI.
yeah.
That is the danger constitutionally, is they don't have to pass a law to ban officer discretion. All they have to do is create the circumstance
Working it out.
where it becomes natural for the officer
Yeah,
to rely on the discretion of the machine.
yeah.
So
And what
the
does it take
machine
for
is
the machine to
typing.
be influenced?
Right. It's
Yeah,
just the programming.
yeah.
There was this is somewhat uh, associated, not completely. There was there's still, but it was way worse in the 90s, a concern about the federalization of the police.
Hmm.
And I've always thought, since I studied it, I thought differently at first, but since I studied it, the police were federalized in the 1920s. And that was exacerbated in the 1980s with the block granting and the the legislation that mechanized the means of granting funding for particular capabilities at the federal level. When the federal government controls the money that you get that that enable your operations, the federal government owns the department. Period. Like they don't have to exercise influence because the implication of its exercise is there. The true federalization of the police is one of funding and budgeting, not authorities. That federalization has already occurred. So it's the exact same capture that occurred to universities. It's why everybody is pissed off at all these universities now, that they have ruined their children's thinking process. I sent my son to college as a normal, commonsensical human being, and he came back a pink hair, right? That was the federalization of the university system. The same thing occurred in law enforcement. It doesn't have to be explicit. It's
Yeah.
why the foundation doesn't take federal grant money. There's plenty of federal grant money that would fully fund the foundation. And they would fund us given that we don't want them to exist.
Yeah.
That arm of the Department of Justice, they would still fund us because they would still have some level of control over it. It's the
Yeah.
reason Hillsdale College doesn't take federal money. Anyway,
Yeah.
I view that problem as one in parallel with over reliance on large language model systems in law enforcement decisions. Now, the mundane is great, but in the operational action of enforcement, I don't think it should be within 100 miles of it.
Yeah.
So I view it as a current minor annoyance that can very rapidly
For
become a
now.
serious problem.
Yeah.
And if we're paying attention to it now, we might be able to keep it off of us with a stick.
Yeah.
So I was just interested in your thoughts on that. I
Yeah.
appreciate the context that you
Yeah.
provided.
Well, and
Um,
there's one little aspect of it too. And
mhm,
obviously, it's going to be based on the AI and the adjustments
mhm,
that you can make to the AI. But I wrote up an email and I thought,
mhm,
I wonder how AI could make it better. And I sent it to the AI.
mhm,
And what it spit out was, wow, this is a really good, well done email,
mhm.
except it's missing some points.
Right.
And then I think I wound up trying to access it on my phone. So I was working on it on my computer. I took off and I was somewhere and I thought, I want to read that again. And it couldn't replicate what it already did exactly. There were
Mhm.
some slight variances, but
Right.
yeah, it's appealing. That appeal
Mhm.
is absolutely there.
Mhm.
Um, it's scary.
Well, it's the intellectual version of pornography. The simulation is almost as good as the reality. And that is what AI is to intellectual ability, as pornography is to biological activity, if that makes sense.
Mhm.
At least in my mind, that it's dangerous.
Yeah.
It's not. It's not necessarily harmful, but we know it's not good for us. and and telling humans that anything's okay in moderation, humans have proven over the last 65,000 years of our cognitive ability that moderation is not within the human capability in the main. So
Yeah.
it's a concern. I'm looking forward to the Foundation's Patrol Institute studying it as a problem as it exists. And then I really look forward to having you involved in that Patrol Institute
Oh,
project.
heck yeah.
Um, so, which, if it's okay to make a small aside plug to the Patrol Institute,
Yeah.
we have, if you're tracking Task Force 70 at all, if you're not, please follow us and subscribe and do all that stuff. I won't insult your intelligence by putting up little pop-ups about why you should be a good person and subscribe. We could use the help. We could use your donations that we'll talk about at the end, but the Patrol Institute, as I've spoken about, exists to be a think tank for small town patrolmen who don't have that right now. There are thousands of white papers and theses and college institutes that exist to support and or to not to support but to study criminology. Um, and there's none of that information is available to the law enforcement officer in general, but particularly to small departments. The Patrol Institute exists to create not just the study, the academically rigorous study necessary to get to the bottom of some of these best practices, but also create suggested policies, procedures, and curriculums to give these small departments who don't have the resourcing to do this on their own, to give them a starting point to manipulate it, particularly for their community and their jurisdiction, and execute it. Our first study is underway as of last week. We retained our first program manager, Jake Goldstein, who's a policing criminologist and a forensic psychology expert, to develop a program to serve the small agency patrolmen for the recognition of victims who are on the road to becoming perpetrators. So identifying those kids in adolescence between about 11 and 25 years old, identify the flags, what investigative steps make the most sense at their level, and uh, how to escalate problems to the most appropriate um, uh, systems within your jurisdiction to address them. Identify those kids early, because there's several attack profiles for suspects, one of which is the edgelord, which is, the Columbine shooter. Circumstance is different than the transgender shooter. That's a different suspect. The edge lord is a long-term process to adjust their path, get them off of the attack path. With the transgender shooter, for lack of a better way to put it, that's a very small course correction to move them off of the attack profile into the therapy profile and avoid a terrorist attack. So giving the officers the information they need to do that. Try training an AI to talk to a parent about that particular kid, especially as an SRO, right? So, like identifying what particular problem that kid has, what apps are popular in your area, what apps is that child on, who are they chatting, etc. So, anyway, that was a plug for the Patrol Institute. If you want to help support us, I'll talk about how to do that at the end. That brings us to the probably one of the most under talked about challenges in the small jurisdiction law enforcement world. That is the selection and training of school resource officers.
Mhm.
You have a lot of really prescient thoughts about what makes a good school resource officer in the modern age. And I don't think it depends on the size of the jurisdiction. The
No.
principles that make a good school resource officer are unattached to the size of the jurisdiction, I think. Of course, I'm wrong all the time. I may be wrong about that, but I don't
Oh, I
think
think
I
that
am.
is right on the money. That is
I think
absolutely
it's
accurate.
I think SRO work is different than patrol work in
Uh-huh.
that way. So the principles and skill set necessary for large and small patrolmen are the same. What's different there is reps. Like the training must be more vigorous because the reps are fewer in the small agency. So in the school resource officer world, it's almost like they walk into a Cracker Barrel bubble where every Cracker Barrel is the same, right? Schools are very similar to that. Like
There are a lot of similarities.
the problems are the same and the repetition is the same. There may be some edge differences, like frequency of drug activity or, fights or whatever may be different. But in the main, the prevention of a terrorist attack and the delivery of school resource officer service to at-risk children at risk of sexual exploitation, of being driven to a violent act, being exploited in some other way, are the same, I think. I'm interested in your take on what makes a good school resource officer for a jurisdiction, regardless of that jurisdiction's size.
Yeah. So obviously, we're gonna see some differences based on the age groups. If you're working in a high school versus an elementary school or middle school, um, it can be the most rewarding job in the world. It can be absolutely fantastic, but there has to be you have to recognize ultimately you're the first line of defense. It is you as a school resource officer. There are a lot of misconceptions that people think that if you're an SRO, you're the has-been washout that couldn't make it on patrol. Where I live, these are the SWAT guys. These are the very, very proactive, very successful guys who were selected to work in this environment, who have the ability to they can drop to a knee to talk to a kindergarten student and help them feel comfortable in talking to this police officer with all this stuff on them. And at the turn of something, we're switched on for full tactical response. We need to be able to shoot, discriminate, target, all that kind of stuff. And it's a really cool skill set. Because if you're really good at that, man, you can do pretty much everything, because you can talk squirrels out of trees, but at the same time you can be as effective with arresting people or well versed in means of deadly force and the employment of it. School resource officers now, man, if an agency's doing it right, these are your tip of the spear guys. And yeah, you still have them out and about in patrol or in task force or wherever investigations. But throwing them in schools is a great opportunity for them, for those school resource officers to serve their community in a capacity where you don't get those interactions. You don't get these interactions on a regular basis on the road or in investigations or anywhere else that you do in the school, where you sit with the kids for lunch and you're their hero, and you need to remember that, and you need to uphold these standards for yourself, because if you're going to be their hero, you better be living up to it. You better be that example.
Right.
And also, this is where that culture comes in too.
That's where I was going.
Yeah.
In my mind, a good school resource officer is a highly capable tactician, a highly capable of high emotional intelligence, which is what's required to manage that problem, and a good investigator.
Yeah, and good communicator.
And a good communicator. So the investigative piece is what keeps us on the left side of the attack. Seeing the investigative necessity is on the emotional intelligence side. And then the tactical side is for when it's either edgelord who you wouldn't have contact with to begin with, maturized purple hair attacker, terrorist attacker, who all of those attacks you'll notice are transgender. They're between 18 and 25. They're past high school. The SRO's not in constant contact with them, and they weren't identified earlier for whatever reason. So you also must possess the tactical capability to work alone, and work effectively. And I love our GWAT tribe, but telling guys that it's a suicide mission to go by yourself isn't helping.
No.
Like, SROs don't have a choice.
No.
So how about
there's another threat though too, and having been through Direct Action Resource Center, Darcy,
Mm-hmm.
the
What a phenomenal
counterterrorism.
program.
Oh man, I've spent a lot of time there.
Mm-hmm.
One of the underlying themes
Mm-hmm.
is we're still not free of a overseas terrorist attack.
Correct.
And not to sound alarmist or anything like that, but
no, that's on the radar.
Yeah, it's on the radar. And for me as the school resource officer, and I have and this was years ago that I was a school
Mm-hmm.
resource officer. It was a
Right.
decade ago, but still, it's still close to my heart. When I was, though, I signed up for Darcy. I signed up for the counterterrorism
Mm-hmm.
school because I recognized, and I signed up for pistol classes, rifle classes, stuff because
Mm-hmm.
I recognized I'm the first line of defense. I am going to be alone. I need to be as effective as possible,
Mm-hmm.
and I need my skill sets to reflect this.
Right.
And
Right.
the threats have just expanded. They
Mm-hmm.
haven't narrowed, and we're seeing this.
Yeah.
And yeah, that overseas terrorist attack, it's still looming. It's still looming. One of the things
Well,
I
and that
wish,
intel
yeah,
is legitimate.
yeah,
There is so much chaff in the air right now in social media that it's hard, especially for cops in small jurisdictions, to see what the actual threats are. I'm not going to get into details, but that threat is legitimate.
yep,
Like that is a real deal. And the
yeah,
problem is we can't identify where it's going to happen on purpose of that's a
yep.
purposeful tactic
So
of
we
the
all need
opponent.
to be at this level,
Right.
all of us, to include the
Exactly.
citizens.
Right.
But with that in mind as well, and I think it might have been Rich Mason, the founder of
Mm-hmm.
Darcy, who said something along the lines of, when we see all these other attacks throughout the world, there's some commonality between them
Mm-hmm.
where they may just be those warm-ups
Mm-hmm.
logistically to see, okay, let's try this out before we
Yeah.
go hit the US.
Right.
Let's try this out. And if you look at active shooter from
Mm-hmm.
Columbine to Virginia Tech to
Mm-hmm.
as it progressed, they're learning from each other.
Mm-hmm.
They're going after a high score.
Right.
And it's disgusting to say that, but that's what's happening.
Well, it's absolutely true for the edgelord attacker profile, absolutely. But it's also it's it's testing data for the actual opponents. Like every one of those is very useful to the actual opponent. To not that the edge lords or the purple hairs aren't, but the truly dangerous opponents, the ones that like the priority of life is really going to come into reality in those where I'm not trying to shoot back one guy. I'm trying to survive long enough to save as many kids as possible, right? So in that circumstance, the enemy, the opponents, because there's multiples of them, are utilizing those ancillary attacks driven by whatever mechanism. They're studying those to study our response.
Yeah.
And that was one of the subtle uh, background noise dangers with the Uvalde shooting and several others is what they are planning for, right? What the studs in Nashville did is helpful on the individual case level, but also educating the opponent that they can no longer expect us to barricade and call for SWAT, right? That's helpful as well on a larger scale beyond the obvious wonderful help that it was on scene. The uh, education is important for the officers because we are boiling this down over the years of these types of attacks to aggression is the answer, right? So in order for that to be effective and not just, you know, screaming like a bitch, it it needs to be trained.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I think you're absolutely right.
And there's some realism though with something that you
Mhm.
just said, the possibility as the responding officer, SRO,
Mhm.
even a citizen, a guardian.
Right. Right.
Because here in Utah, we have the Guardian program where we have armed people
Mhm.
in the schools.
Right.
There's a possibility your life is going to be used purely to stop the killing. You okay, there's the reality. You may be killed doing this, but
Right.
the longer you're distracting the main element from killing more people, that is what you're here for. That is
That's
absolutely what you're here for.
And I am convinced that, hang on one second. Sorry.
You too, huh?
Yeah. Oh yeah. So on the windowsill of the kitchen, the center button. No problem. All right, we're ready to go again. Sorry about that, Matt. Drunk editor, we're ready to cut back in. So that's one of the reasons that you and I and everybody in our tribe has harped on priority of life for so many years. And I talked about this I think with Bill, how the priority of life education kind of went away for a while. Um, and that's a problem. And it's a problem on a bunch of levels, but it's not just being told and being able to test out that you know what the priority of life is. It's understanding why it exists, and that's it. Like, you need to be as capable of as possible in the worst case, so that you can live as long as possible to create the most effective counterattack as possible to allow the maximum number of victims to escape.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's also a mindset problem or a mindset challenge for training.
Yeah.
Because it's our natural tendency to box check training stuff.
Yep.
And
so for my clarification, and so if I understand you correctly, that you're saying that there was a time where officer first, I'm going home no matter what, and that is wrong. That is absolutely wrong.
That is such a terrible. I don't hear it much anymore, thank goodness.
Yeah.
Because one of the things that the special operations veteran community has done they've done a lot of good in the training tribe, right? One of the things they've done really well, especially Chuck and several others, is reignite the understanding in that whether or not I live is irrelevant.
Yeah.
Like, that is the priority of life. That's the point, right? So at some point in some circumstances, that's the important part. That has done as much as anything else to drive out the mindset that developed the training curriculum that I was taught at a class. Luckily, I understood the difference and know to ignore it.
Yeah.
That, well, I'm not going in there. That I could get hurt. Like, that could be dangerous. Or
go do another job then. Yeah.
Yeah, go do another job. Or we're just going to surround and call out every search warrant. Or the children in a search warrant, the children inside the house are pre-hostages, right? So sometimes surround and call out makes sense. Sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes letting a suicidal subject stand in the surf and try to negotiate him out of the water, it makes sense. Sometimes you have to walk out into the water and risk kicking his ass to not let him kill himself, as opposed to what happened in a particular case where the officers weren't allowed by their supervision to enter the water because they could have been injured, and the guy drowned himself. Now, does a person have the right to suicide? Sure, as long as I'm not there. If I'm there, I have a constitutional responsibility to attempt to protect your life. So anyway, that's a phenomenally important but deep rabbit hole. But yes, I think a fundamental understanding of the priority of life and what it actually means, a high level of training and tactics, and continuous training and tactics and investigative skills. It's also a great place for the younger guys, pardon me, to also learn how to be detectives. Like an
Mhm.
SRO is a detective at some level. So, um, and if they aren't great at it yet, especially the larger department, the more likely it is that they don't have any investigative responsibilities and patrol. Putting them into SROs or as SROs will teach them to be good investigators. So you're rounding out the capabilities of a law enforcement officer in general, because the demographics are pretty stark. This year we had about 900,000 fewer people turned 18 than did the year before who were US citizens. Next year it's higher. So this wave crested about 3 years ago. So this year the people who fewer people that year, I think it was 512 or 513,000 fewer American citizens turned 18 than the year before. That was the first year since our founding as a country that fewer native born Americans turned 18 than the year
Hmm.
before. That is going to crest in about 2.5 years, or I'm sorry, 3 years. Those kids from 3 years ago, who are fewer of them turned 18, are just now becoming eligible to become police officers. So the raw statistical availability of people at the correct age to become police officers is smaller.
Yeah.
So we are like the demographic problem that every department in the country is facing right now. The good news is it's just going to get worse. Like, and the challenge with that, with when combined with the development or the advancement of what people perceive to be artificial intelligence and large language models, is that becomes an easy button for doing with fewer people, which creates two challenges, right? One is keep the discretion in the hands of the actual officer and not the
Yeah.
AI. The second is the expectation of capability on the part of individual officers is going to increase, not decrease, if that makes sense. So the officers are moving more in the direction of having to be a Texas Ranger than be a patrolman in LA.
Well, especially for the small agency.
Right. And you're exactly on track with my line of thought.
Yeah.
It's already there with those small agencies.
That's what I'm doing.
Yeah, the
Just don't
agency
have the
you're
hat.
in, right. The agency you're in right now, I bet 20 years ago they had, do you have any detectives at all right now?
Oh yeah, we have one, but 20 years ago we didn't exist. Actually, I take that
Well,
back. 25 years ago we didn't exist.
right.
Yeah.
So we have an agency here in the county where I still work sometimes. Our biggest city is about the same size as the one that you work in.
Hmm.
25 years ago, they had 3 detectives. Today, they have 1 detective.
Hmm.
And that's a very common theme I'm finding as I look into these size of departments. The smaller the agency, the fewer support mechanisms they have
Yeah.
available.
Yeah.
So it's becoming more imperative that a patrol officer is also a detective,
Yeah. Yeah.
investigating his
That
own
that
case.
being said, though, in my experience, I found throwing officers at the problem without structure,
Hmm.
that just does not help the problem.
Mm-mm. It makes it worse,
Yeah.
right? So at the same time, whether the population of law enforcement officers is going up or down, we need to be pushing the capacity or the capabilities higher,
Yeah.
because no matter what way the demographics go, um, they're probably going to go poorly. So
Yeah.
whichever way they go, though, the necessity to maintain a a constitutionally adherent law enforcement culture nationally, the level of training needs to increase exponentially, because the overall capability of our training is going down, but the necessity for better training is going up. So our two paths are going the wrong direction. So it
Absolutely.
So,
I'm trying to find. I actually made a chart,
oh, awesome.
but I need to somehow. There's an aspect of it I don't want to be broadcast. But basically, exactly what you just described. I
Mm-hmm.
made a chart of it not too long
Mm-hmm.
ago. Basically, it was showing 5 years ago, present, 5 years from now, needs of the public and our standards are going in this
Mm-hmm.
direction. And as we're hiring new officers, we're not quite meeting it because
Mm-hmm.
they're not getting trained up, and a lot of them
Right.
don't have the core experience. And so
Correct.
as a whole, we're not doing too bad, but we're not meeting the needs, which are going in this direction. And
Mm-hmm.
every new officer, like new officer we hire, actually brings our overall skill level down. And
Mm-hmm.
what are we doing to increase their overall skills to match the
Right.
needs?
Right.
That's a conundrum.
Right. And the challenge is the further those two, or the longer we go, the further apart they get,
Yeah.
which generates a call for more AI in law enforcement.
It's the easy button.
Depersonalize the decision is the
Yeah.
phrase that I've heard from the other side, from the blob, is that the challenge to law enforcement is we're allowing the law enforcement officers to make their own decisions.
And they should.
Well,
They need
that's
to.
that's the freaking Constitution.
Yeah.
Like, that is the point. And the smaller the agency, the more critical that maintaining that standard becomes on
And
our
yeah,
side and expectation side.
to reinforce that. So let's say we have that well-versed officer
Mm-hmm.
who's he's not violating rights. He knows the Constitution. He applies this. We have
Mm-hmm.
that, and then we have the new officer who might as well be AI.
Right.
So I think we want those experienced officers. We want those, and they don't. And it's possible that new officers can get to that level,
Mm-hmm.
and it's possible
Absolutely.
officers can have these understandings. Absolutely.
Yeah. But it's an intentional act for us to get them there.
Exactly.
It's an intentional act.
And
If
a culture.
everybody in the yeah,
That culture's
the
going to do
culture.
it. Yeah.
Yeah. If everybody in the middle management level of the department is focused on educating themselves for the purpose of promotion, we're not going to
Yeah.
get the same outcome as
Yeah.
we are. I'm sending you to a 3-month, executive leadership course in Boston that DOJ is teaching. That's great. What are you bringing back with that other than a credentialing for yourself?
Yep.
And that is a giant missing piece in a bunch of places.
Yep.
So,
Amen.
yeah. So anyway, we're entering just sitting around bitching
I love how
session,
it
but I
comes
think it's
together.
important. But it's definitely the truth.
Yeah.
So, um, to wrap us up, I'll just say that that's why the foundation exists, is to
Yeah.
not only identify these problems, but being big believers in only trying to touch what we are capable of touching. So I am very good at very few things. I'm good at identifying gaps in training. I'm good at teaching certain things, right? I'm really good at teaching 5 things. So those are the 5 we call them, the big 5 at the foundation. Those are the 5 things that the foundation is focused on. My hope, my goal is that this is successful enough to either spawn or inspire other nonprofit foundations, legitimately nonprofit foundations, because nonprofit is the only way to do this realistically. Small departments can't afford uh, to send a high enough number of people to the right classes. It, like, every cop should be required legislatively to go to one of Rich's courses, right? I really believe
I would
that.
love that.
It's not possible.
No.
So nationally, the federal system spends about $600 million a year on training for local agencies training. About 6% of that money makes it to agencies of less than 15 officers. The vast majority of that money, 94% of it, goes to medium and large size agencies because of the pure volumetric problem,
Yeah.
right? So it's not possible. So the agencies can afford pardon me. Agencies can afford to go to the class. What they can't afford is one of the primary focuses of why we are a nonprofit foundation instead of a business, is they can't afford the backfill cost of overtime for the officer being gone. That is the number one reason. It's over 70%, 76.7% is the actual number of the no's I've received as a private for-profit training business for 25 years, because I track that kind of stuff. People can't come because the department can't afford to pay the overtime to replace them. That is more expensive than the class. So on average, it's about $1,100 a week to backfill an officer. So that's why we're a foundation. So anyway, um, we want to inspire, encourage other people to start similar foundations in their areas of expertise. So we need an SRO training foundation to just train SROs. Like they need our stuff, our big five are constitutional judgment, marksmanship, breaching, medical, and tactics, but we need their big five of whatever they are, like social work and DCS referrals and crimes against children investigations, whatever those big five are. We need foundations to help us with those too, right? So that's part of the purpose of the foundation, is to inspire other foundations. So we need your help talking to the public now, to the people watching. The way we are funded is in three ways. We have three buckets of money that we are attempting to fill up. Two of them are fairly substantial. One of them is already has resources pouring into it. The one that doesn't is our small donation program. We need as many people as possible, as many Americans as possible, to donate $20 a month, to just subscribe to a $20 a month donation. For that, we are funding the mobile training team operations. That's where we go and mentor and train small departments in the specific things that they need. And it funds the Patrol Institute, the study that I talked to. Our other third mission is the big mission, is the training campus here in Middle Tennessee, where we have plans to build a second one out west as well. That draws off officers in from these small agencies from all over the country to train in the Big Five for 2 weeks. They're separated, train for a week, go home for a while, come back, train for a second week. Um, the small donations are the piece that we really need help with right now. And in exchange for that, we will give you our thanks and gratitude, but we also have a whole bunch of industry support behind the program that's giving away stuff every month to monthly donors. So the donors are randomly selected every month. BCM rifles every month, Blue Force gear equipment, Nightline, um, 2A bourbon, defense mechanisms, and Tango Down. There's several others. Every month you get, think of it like the hopper, where we put all the numbers back in and hop it again. So this month we're giving away a bunch of stuff, and about from the time you're watching this, in about a week, we'll be giving away a bunch more stuff. The only way to get in on that is donate $20 a month. Go to our website at tf70.org/donate. Sign up as a donor. We promise not to spam you. You'll get one email a month, and it'll just be an update on everything that you're contributing to helping us do. So we are Open Kimono Foundation. We're not buying our kids Porsches and sending ourselves to conferences in Brussels or in the Alps. That's not what we do. So everything you donate goes to the mission. Other donors are already taking care of all the most of the overhead stuff. So you're not paying my salary by donating $20 a month. So you're supporting the mission directly. So we really appreciate you. I promise that's all the shilling I'll do. But oh wait, the show's over. So that timing worked out. Matt, I can't tell you how much I appreciate you, man, taking the time to come do this.
Oh, my pleasure.
I look forward to having you on a bunch.
Yeah, happily.
You've got a deep understanding of the problems that small departments face. So I we can't tell you how much we appreciate it. Can you tell the audience how to check you out, watch your stuff? You have
Yeah.
years of cataloged podcasts that are way worth people's time to watch, especially young cops.
Yeah,
Come
especially if they're
watch those
bored.
podcasts. Yeah. So if you're working night shift, instead of watching OnlyFans, how about you go over to
There you go.
to primary and secondary? Because I know you dudes are doing it. I watch you. I'm an old sergeant. So instead of doing that or watching BS YouTube videos about how to build cabins out in the woods,
Those are
how
fun.
about I actually watch those. I
Yeah.
feel guilty about it too. Um, check out Matt at
Yeah, primary and secondary. So if you don't want to watch it on YouTube or you don't have the bandwidth, not that that's an
mhm,
excuse anymore, but it is available in audio form on your favorite, whatever your favorite audio
mhm.
app, whether it be Apple or Spreaker or Stitcher or what's the
You're
one?
on
Oh, Spotify. That's the
Spotify's.
one I'm talking about. Yeah, Spotify. That's the
Mhm,
one I'm thinking about.
mhm,
Um, Couple hours of discussion on whatever. Um,
mhm,
we've been talking about revolvers. We've talked about police stuff. We've talked about all
mhm.
kinds of stuff. Actually, have still matter. What was it? Failure to no negligent hiring, negligent training,
Mhm,
negligent retention is an
mhm.
episode coming up fairly soon. That's going to be a fun one. Um,
Man, what
but
an
yeah,
undercover. I mean, seriously, that's an undercovered topic. And
yeah,
it's undercovered kind of on purpose because
yeah.
the average agency this year on this is again averages, but within the Task Force 70 demographic, off serving less than 10,000 citizens, the average training budget was about 14.5%. This next year, starting January 1, the average goes down to about 5%.
Oh wow.
So, and that's because of cost of reemployment, cost of new hires. New hire
Yeah,
cost has gone up over 300%
yeah,
because of demographics driving uh, employee turnover. It's
yeah,
much more expensive that year when you got to hire people,
yeah,
things like that. So I didn't mean to interrupt you, but that's going to be a great episode
yeah.
that
Well,
people.
and along those same lines, the people like us that would spend our own money and
Hmm.
take time off and pay for our own travel to go to these classes,
Hmm.
they're dwindling.
They are.
That does not happen.
That's
And
going away.
to go to Darcy on your own, no. I went to alert instructor level one.
Hmm.
I took time off, paid for the class itself was free, but everything
Hmm.
else, nope. I covered that because now I see there's a need, there's a
Hmm.
deficiency in the agency, and I feel it's my responsibility, it's my duty to fix this.
Hmm.
Man, let me just tell you, that is ridiculous, and I need to stop doing that.
Yeah, it's ridiculously expensive, man.
And it is
I spent the vast majority of my career paying for my own training.
exactly.
That's not really a thing anymore. It's not economically viable for a
Mm-mm.
police officer. The average police salary in adjusted dollars has gone down in the last 15 years. When you adjust for inflation like dollars is what that adjustment's called.
Yeah.
The average officer makes less money than they did 15 years ago.
So
So,
I have an example of that in
mhm,
2012. Go to
mhm,
Wendy's, get a large chicken sandwich meal. That was $7.62. The reason I remember
mhm,
that 762 308. Okay.
mhm,
At the time, I was making, I think I was making 1630,
mhm,
1632 is how much I was making hourly. That
mhm,
meal has doubled. My
mhm,
pay has doubled. Am I
mhm.
making more? No. It
No,
sure feels like it, looks like it on paper. In reality, no.
you haven't. You've barely kept up with
Yep.
inflation,
Yep.
and most agencies haven't.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's becoming a serious problem. So
Yeah.
that's awesome. Not the problem's not
No,
awesome, but
no.
the fact that we're talking about it is
That we're
awesome.
talking about it.
That's like the
Exactly.
first step.
It's
So
awareness.
yeah, Matt, I can't tell you how much I appreciate you, brother. We really
Oh, my
appreciate you,
pleasure.
and I look forward to doing this a bunch
Yeah.
with you. We're not going to have a lot of reoccurring characters, but you're going to be one of them. So we appreciate you very much. Um, Guys, again, if you're willing to support the foundation and what we do, like and subscribe is helpful, but what we really need is a $20 a month donation. I promise you'll be put in the hopper every month to win some cool stuff, including guns. And who doesn't like guns? So, guys, check us out at tf70.org. And until next time, we really appreciate you coming.